Okay, I think it's recording now. I think we're good to start. So we read the Forest School chapter. Um, and I just have picked a few questions out, and you guys can just like relate them back to your part or just like share out your part whenever. My first question was, how do Zora and Lucas's behaviors challenge the classroom expectations or like the norm in the classroom?
Um, I guess it kind of relates to my picture. Um, yep, I tried my best. I'm not very creative. So I kind of did like one thought bubble is like things that students are interested in. So like kind of exploring um their interests in like bright colors. And then there's like the other bubble that's like gray and kind of dark and it's just like rules and check marks and things like that. Um, so I just like kind of drew this as like I related it to this quote of like a rich, rigorous, and engaging curriculum that values creativity in multiple ways of knowing is juxtaposed with a consistent and sometimes harsh reminder that there are rigid norms and codes of behavior that must not be challenged if one wants to be successful in this setting. So that's why I kind of drew this of like we kind of tell students that we want them to explore and kind of have like their own freedom, but then we just like continue to maybe not as much now, which is good, but like punish them like when they kind of do those things. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote about I was the bridge, so I was like relating it back to like classes or things we've taken or written. And I know a lot of things, but I couldn't remember what class it was from. So I was like, I know I got this from somewhere, but I remember that in um English 401 we talked a lot about like the correct way to read and write and like speak, which they talked about in the beginning of when they were talking about Zora. And it's like really like who is someone to tell you like the right way to speak based on like who you are. And that made me think of 401 because Zora was just kind of she was growing up being taught like to be who she is and express herself like with her family, and then school like was totally the opposite, which was sad.
Yeah, I feel like this also like relates to one of my like passages or quotes I did because it was like about kind of like the different behaviors, and I feel like because like the two students, I feel like their behaviors are just so like different than other students, or like challenges the teachers in a different way than other students might. And so the one I chose is on page 68 and says, children like Lucas with their exasper exasperation. Oh no, no, never mind, that's the wrong one. Ignore me. Yeah, that's actually the right one. Are perseverating insistence on their own desires, their angry red faces and blobs remind us that our demands are not neutral, but rather quite challenging. And so I feel like it just shows that like everyone's just like all the children are different and they like take things differently. So like if their behavior might be like they say like bad or like out like really just like I forgot how like the one teacher explained it, but I feel like it's just important to keep in the back of our mind when confronted with different behaviors. Just that kind of like what we talked about today too at the PDs, just like you don't know what that child's thinking. And so just like be cautious of how you go about it. Yeah, nice. This kind of leads into the next question then, like, because Zora and Lucas's behaviors were like different from other like all the other students in the classroom, but they were also different from each other. So how do you think that Zora and Lucas's behaviors were different from each other? And like relating like they did have very different like home lives too. So how like could this like affect their behaviors in school. One thing I saw is that like Zora's behavior was a lot more like outgoing and like out there and like she found it and her behavior like she wanted to be different from everyone, which was kind of different from Lucas's.
I feel like Zora was really just like being herself. And
Mhm.
that's what she taught to like her parents taught her to grow up and be who she is. And then school kind of challenged that. So I'm trying to find my notes from before.
Yeah, I thought that it was like interesting because like she was kind of named as like more of a standout like student. And I just like highlighted like one of the like sections where like Mrs. Beverly like told her that I don't want her behavior to make her stand out even more when it was like kind of relating like to her race as well, which I thought was like kind of crazy to say that as a teacher.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think it's just like interesting to see like that when she's at home, like she is like encouraged to like stand out and express who she is, but then when she goes to school, like it's the complete opposite of like you already are standing out enough because of your race, like you don't need to stand out even more because of your behaviors.
Mhm.
And I just feel like that might just be like a lack of like maybe I don't know actually. Never mind, erase that thought.
And I think like Zora you see her as like energetic and whatnot, and then Lucas was like quiet and like it's very two opposite sides of the spectrum. Whereas like it's both like emotional regulation, but like at at what cost, like for Zora, and B, like how do you teach like a quiet child to like be not quiet and emotional? It's like there's a lot different things going on between the two.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, like how for Lucas they just said like how like like not like he's like egocentric, I think the word is, but like not like conceited. It's just like he only thinks about how like something may affect him, which I think is interesting. Whereas Zora is just like I feel like maybe like a little more free-willed in a sense than like that. But I think it's just because she just wants to like you guys said like be herself because that's what she's just been taught all the years. Yeah, it was interesting to see like how like their parents taught her to be like be your own person, but then in school like she's taught you have to do what everyone else is doing. And then someone touched on this too. On page 26 there you discuss how like other students are starting to like form biases about Zora because the teacher is always calling out her name. So, um, why how do you think this impacts Zora in her like ability to make friends at school?
Well, I mean, it said that she didn't really make friends except for the one boy. And I mean, I know in my class we have a few kids that need a lot of reminders, and it you can see that it's like, oh, they know this kid is the one that needs a lot of reminders, which is sad. And we try really hard to make it not like that. Um, but it's just reminders, hey, like you got to read your book right now. Um, so it's not really to the extent of Zora, but
Yeah.
um,
No, I agree because I feel like teachers like emphasize like choose your friends wisely. So like when you are in class and there's like I mean and even like with my experience like in school like if like the teacher kept like calling out a student, like I already like was creating this bias of like, okay, like you, I guess you're not a good student. Like I shouldn't like choose you as a friend. Like that's not like kind of fitting that expectation that these teachers have. So yeah, so I was thinking,
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like similar at my placement. Like we have one kid in particular who's often like taken out of class like to go meet with a social worker or just like a math or reading specialist. And so, but he also like gets in trouble frequently, and I think a lot of the students are just like scared of him because they don't want to like get in trouble too, because they think that's where he's going most of the time is just to like get like talked to about something. And so I feel like that's like really interesting because like I think they're just kind of like Zora, like they're just like scared to fall into whatever is going on.
Yeah, I feel the same way too. That my next question was, do you see any of these like types of students like Zora or Lucas in your current placements and like see how this is impacting them? Like I see one of my students is um I can see that he's like Zora and he's always just like happy and very like outgoing and just wants to talk to everyone. And his name is always being called out in class because he just like it's very difficult for him to keep like his thoughts like inside his head. So I've seen these types of behaviors in my class that way.
Mhm. I have one student in particular that, I mean, he's similar to Zora in the sense that like he's definitely labeled troublemaker. But like he's also like pretty different. Like he gets very angry very fast about like being told what to do or like being told how to do something, or we really have to work with him on like staying calm and not like blowing up and getting upset. And like there's like a really weird power dynamic that goes on with him. So that's who I think about when I read the book, even though it's like still pretty different from Zora or Lucas.
yeah, I have a student in my class. He kind of reminds me of Lucas. Um, and I just like found this quote where like Lucas is a child for whom individual desire is exceptionally strong. He is inflexible and perseverating. It's just his nature. So just kind of like talking about how like kind of rules aren't fair because they often stand in the way of meeting his individual desires. And like for my one student, he like I love him to death, but it's like really interesting to see like if we're like doing a lesson, we'll be like my teacher will like say out loud, like, hey, like put the highlighter away, like we need to be focusing on math or like whatever we're doing. And I know that he like loves to color, he loves to do art, so like he wants to doodle, and that's totally fine. And I think like because of her calling him out, like they kind of like all think that he just is like not paying attention, like he doesn't want to focus, like he doesn't prioritize school, like anything like that. But I think like just finding a balance of like, yes, like you do need to like pay attention and understand like these like rules and expectations that we have. But also like I do understand because you want to kind of do what you want to do, and that's like totally normal for a kid. So I feel like for me, I've just been finding like ways to kind of like mediate with him. Like, okay, we notice that she's taking a pause, like you can color this until the lesson starts. So just stuff like that. So yeah, he reminds me of Lucas in the best way possible.
I feel like kind of like similar because I'm in a kindergarten class, so a lot of them are like learning like the rules about school and like learning like, oh, I can't just scream in class and like a lot of them like just think like about themselves and like how like they don't I don't think it's fair that I can't stand on my chair or like something like that when they don't like understand how someone else will feel if like they hit them or push them or something.
Hmm.
Another question that I have is like, what is one thing you learned from this first part of the reading that could be useful to you as a future teacher?
I
Um,
wrote about like, oh, you go.
oh no, sorry, you go. I was just thinking out loud.
I wrote about like how power struggles are just like no good and can be avoided by like making students feel valued in other ways, like giving positive attention to other things, not just negative, negative, negative all the time. Like kids need to feel good about what they're doing good, quote unquote. And I mean, a reminder is okay, but like just constantly bashing them for like I don't want to say like nothing, but like there's a difference between like I don't know. I guess I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I hope you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like their personality, and like little things that don't really matter at the end of the day, like just so they can fit this stereotype or fit into this box of what you want them to be, like doesn't make sense. And then you can't do that because why do you gotta do that?
Hmm.
Mhm.
I agree.
Well,
I also just kind of feel like, and like I feel like we're continuing to learn this like throughout our courses, but like there's just like no need to like call students out like in front of everyone like based on a behavior. Like I think that even like with our professional development today is like behaviors like mean more. Like it's not just them like being bad kids, quote unquote, but just like there might be something else going on. I think like as a teacher, like there's no point in like making someone like openly feel bad about something when like they just might not like understand like why this behavior is not okay at this time. So, and I feel like that's what I kind of learned in like in keeping it in mind. Um, so yeah.
yeah, I feel like it's kind of like similar to like a quote I picked out because it talks about um it says talking about Zora, it says so she needs someone who on day one is going to make her feel like you're part of this classroom. But then it also talks about like how like she knows like there's like still expectations that she needs to like and like goals she needs to meet. And I feel like this is like kind of like what I want to do like in my future classroom, especially like that like warm demander we were talking about in class. Just like knowing that they have expectations that they need to meet, but also knowing that like you're there for them and you're doing like what's best for them. Just making sure like you guys have like we have that balance. I think is important.
That goes back to today too, when we were when she was talking about like how you sometimes you have to lower your expectations and just so like kids can meet them, and that's totally fine. And from there, you just move up and up and up, or you keep working towards that. It's like each kid has an individual goal. You can't give them all the same goal. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I'm seeing that a lot in my classroom too. Like we have a student who like every time you give him like a worksheet or anything, he will just like scribble all over it or like throw it to the side or something because he thinks he can't do it. And so why is he gonna try if he thinks he can't do it? So we've been like trying like different things with him, but like we've had to like now like I'll just like take him out in the hall and like work one-on-one with him because once he like gets that support, then he like thinks he can do it. So it's just like interesting seeing like I think it's interesting like lowering the bar like does help them and then helps them get back up to
Hmm.
the expectations. But I just like have like questions about like because these students like calling them out like multiple times like sometimes they need the reminder but like how do you know like when to like call them out and like when not to? It's just like hard, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like I actually like had an experience with this like last week. So on Thursday, all of my like all the fifth grade teachers like had to go to this like meeting. So it was just me and then a sub. And I've been like keeping in mind like the warm demander, things like that. And like even like when my t like mentor teacher's teaching, like I'll do like warm reminders of like touch their like desk, like point at the page, stuff like that. But I was like leading a lesson last week and there were these two girls that like kept talking and it was like pretty loud. And so I went over there and I kind of like tapped their desk a little bit, stood over there for a little bit, and then like I went back to like whatever, doing that again. They kept talking, but now like they're like the chairs are turned. Like they're having like a whole conversation. And that's like for me, I just was like, "Hey, like I don't know, like I was like student, I don't know if I can see their names, but I was like, I don't know if you guys can see me with your backs turned. Like, do you mind like moving your chairs like facing me?" So like that's kind of what I did for calling out. Like I wasn't trying to like make them feel bad, but just more of like, okay, you guys know the expectation is, especially during a lesson, like we're not supposed to turn our chairs around. So I just like kind of gave them like a reminder of like, oh, like I just want you guys to be able to see me. Like, do you mind like turning your t chairs, but not like openly being like, you guys aren't listening, you guys are talking, like I'm giving you a fine or something like that. But it is like a hard balance because I don't want them to like feel bad, but I think like when you establish like those high expectations, like they do kind of need to meet them in a way. So, but yeah, it is difficult to balance.
My teacher does a lot of like she calls students out, but like not in like a demeaning way. Like she'll be teaching and she'll just like look at them or point at like or like say their name really fast and like none of the kids like seem to notice that she even said that, but the kid like realizes they're not paying attention and they're rolling around on the floor or something and then they'll pay attention, which I think is awesome rather than being like, "Hey kid, you aren't paying attention. Like look up here," and going on and on and on about it. Like she'll just say their name and they'll like realize I'm not paying attention. I probably should, which is great. And I just wonder like how she happened to get that dynamic with them.
Yeah, my teacher, like, she won't say students' names, but she'll kind of like look at them, like, if they're like fidgeting or like just like tapping or like making like noises, she'll just be like, oh, let's try this technique. Everybody try this technique. So it's like everyone's like kind of looking like whether it's like moving your pencil quietly or like kind of like going like this with your fingers. She kind of does it like to the whole class so that like the student like kind of recognizes that like they probably should try something else that's a little quieter. So I think that helps. It's not like directed at one student, but like just like the whole class, like techniques for them to use.
Yeah, one thing that my teacher does too is she will like call out like the students that are following directions. She'll be like, "Oh, look at so and so. Like look at how well he's like he's ready to learn. He has his hand on his head. He's ready." And so that will like make other students like look over like, "Oh, he's not doing this." And so kind of like refocuses a lot of students. That was all the questions I had. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to share?
I don't think so.
All right. I think we're good then. Is that all we had to do?
Think so, yes.
Okay. Okay, so I'll get the link uploaded and then should be good.
Perfect. And do we know our roles for next time that we meet?
Oh yes.
I think I'm Passage Master.
Let me check for mine.
I'm doing the bridge.
Okay, and I think I'm the discussion.
Perfect.
And then yeah, I'm illustrator.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect.